Within Enfield Industries, there lies the art of team building and synergies. I think the game does a great job in regards to that. A lot of the characters are viable, and there's a variety on how you can build each operator. There are currently 2 damage types in Enfield, physical damage and arts damage, which can be further divided to heat, cryo, nature, and electric. Well, there's also ether damage according to the game, but as of right now, no characters inflict it. Before I start though, I will say that this video will primarily focus on physical teams, as it is the team that I currently play, and while I could theory craft what an arts team might look like, I wouldn't be able to test them myself. So with that out of the way, let's go over what makes team building in Arknights Endfield fun. Okay, but seriously though, let's get started. So in Enfield, there are statuses that you could apply on enemies based on your damage type. In physical teams, there are knockback, lift, crush, and breach. All of them apply the vulnerable stack, which is inflicted instead of a physical status. Knockback and lift crowd controls enemies and applies a stack of vulnerable. Crush applies a stack unless there's already an existing one in which it would spend said stack to deal more damage. Breach is similar to Crush in a sense that it spends the stack, but it spends it to make the enemies more vulnerable to physical damage. There is also the debuff known as Physical Susceptibility, which functions similarly to Breach, but is instead inflicted before the start of a vulnerable stack. I would not be going over arts damage at all in this video, as to make it easier to explain why team building in this game is just that fun. I will go over every character that you can currently play in a physical team so that you can understand their kits and, well, be able to make your own teams. So first on the list would be the Administrator. They inflict the crush status on enemies. So ideally he's someone that you start the stack with, or someone that you spend the stack with. There's also a unique mechanic exclusive to them known as Originium Crystals, which stuns the enemy and increases the damage that admin deals to that enemy when the Originium Crystal breaks. So this makes admin a really good DPS character because he can deal a ton of burst damage. Second would be Chen. She's a really good vulnerable applicator. She inflicts the lift status, which makes her good for crowd controlling small enemies. She can inflict 1 stack via her skill, and 1 stack via her combo skill. She's best used as someone that can build up an already existing stack so that the character with Crush or Breach can prepare to spend that stack with their abilities. Third would be the Pan. He primarily inflicts knockback and lifted on enemies, but when there's 4 stacks of vulnerable on the enemy, he can do a combo skill that inflicts the Crush status and deal tons of damage. He is great as a DPS, similar to Admin, and he can also be the one to build up the already existing stack for someone else to spend it. Fourth would be Pograniknik. Forgive me for butchering his name. For the rest of this video, I will call him Pog to make this easier for us. He is a must-have for physical teams, as Breach is a great debuff because, well, you do more damage, as well as the SP recovery for the team, which means the rotation can go faster since you are able to cast skills sooner. Fifth on the list would be Li Feng. He inflicts knockdown on the enemy. He is also a must-have for physical teams because of the Link buff, which buffs up the team's attack. There's also Physical Susceptibility, which as I mentioned functions similarly to Breach, so you deal more damage, and he has good vulnerable infliction via his ult. Sixth would be Ember. She's a physical unit disguised as a heat unit. She's a support that inflicts vulnerable despite her literally being a heat unit. She's not a must-have in the physical team, but is a solid option if you're looking for a support character, as she can contribute to the vulnerable stack. 7 would be Ardelia, which she doesn't really contribute to the stack, but she inflicts corrosion alongside physical susceptibility, which makes her a flex slot on the team. Corrosion isn't really useful, but physical susceptibility is, which makes her a flex slot in your team and an alternative to Ember because she can also heal. Then there's Alesh. Now you might be wondering, isn't he a cryo character? He is, but he can be used in physical team with Estella because of the solidification status, which freezes the enemy, and if you hit the enemy, will inflict Shatter, which breaks the ice and deals tons of physical damage. So his team comp is more of an alternative to the typical mono-physical team here. Now that we know what the characters do, we can go over team setups. The one that I'm currently using right now is Administrator, Chen, Pog, and Li Fang. Li Fang starts the rotation with his skill, then Chen follows up with her skill and combo skill. And then once you get 4 vulnerable stacks, you spend that stack with Pog's skill. Edmin is there to put the Originium crystals on his enemies and deal tons of damage because his damage scales based on those crystals. Yes, his damage can also scale via the vulnerable stacks, but I find that scaling it using his unique mechanic is honestly just better, because like if the enemy has physical susceptibility and breach and then you use the crystals and then use his skill or ult, he deals tons of damage. That's how I would play Endmin rather than trying to compete with Pog. You can be the one to spend the stacks too, but yeah. Now I would not be going over every rotation in this segment, but I will show you some alternatives. The Pan is very similar to Edmin, so he can either slot into Edmin's slot in my team or play both of them, honestly, since he can also contribute to stacks. Ardelia and Ember are good support options if you want healing, or in the event that you don't have Li Fang, Ardelia can be the alternative physical susceptibility option. Then Alesh teams are a variant of the physical team, so you will have to play it differently since now you're also using cryo status. Team building in this game is honestly so varied that you can build your own varieties just based on the character kits I just told you about. I specifically didn't say any other alternative, as a lot of the characters can work as long as you have characters that can build up and spend vulnerable stacks on the rotation. Like for example, if you don't have Li Fang, Endmin can be used to start the stack instead. That's the beauty of Enfield. You aren't locked to only running a few characters, and even the 4 stars and the 5-star characters has a place in your team. It's not just a bunch of 6 stars. So I want you to experiment with team building. I'm not going to tell you every single possible team in this video. So yeah, I want you to experiment, as it is one of the best parts of the game. The art of the team building lies in its synergies and composition, and Enfield makes you an artist. It's really fun, and I haven't even got into like all the intricacies of it yet. I won't be talking about all the rotations and all the potential team comps, as I'll literally be here all day. But before you go, there's a character I purposely didn't mention in this video that works with physical teams. That character is Akekuri. She's a generic attack buffer and SP regen unit. Akekuri fits with the team just by the fact that she works on most teams in the game because she regenerates SP. And yes, you will need potentials to reach her, potential, because she can also use the link status, by the way, which buffs up your team's attack. So not only is she an SP regen unit, she's also a buffer. And the potentials are quite easy to get. You can literally just get them by pulling a gacha. In fact, I have all of them right now. Thus, the character with the spray paint is thematically accurate, as she herself creates a work of art by being able to fit in most teams. In conclusion, Akekuri is a work of art.